Big news today. The president came out about an hour and a half ago and said that he was going to order the grounding of all 737 MAX airplanes, the MAX 8s and MAX 9s that are flying around. There are only a few dozen of them still in service in the United States in terms of air carriers. But that means that there will be flights that have to be juggled around for both Southwest and American that were flying those airplanes. Of course, this all in reaction to the crash from Sunday of a 737 MAX 8, which came 5 months after the crash of another 737 MAX 8. They haven't yet determined that the crashes were caused by the same thing, but they say that there are already some similarities to what the planes were doing mechanically before they went down.
Well, we've known that Governor Gavin Newsom has long opposed the death penalty. I mean, he campaigned for a measure to repeal the death penalty in 2016, which failed, telling the Modesto Bee editorial board that he would be accountable to the will of the voters if he became governor. Today, he went back on his word with a moratorium on the death penalty while he is governor here in California.
I cannot sign off on executing hundreds and hundreds of human beings, knowing that among them will be innocent human beings.
Deputy District Attorney Michele Hanisee is president of the Association for District Attorneys. She joins us now. She's one of the many people who work very hard to put these killers away for life on their way to the death chamber. And she joins us now. Michele, did you think that this was coming? Did you see this coming? Were you expecting it?
I don't think anyone saw it coming because the governor promised that he wouldn't do this while he was running for office.
He mentioned that he believed differently before he sat behind the governor's desk, that he made this realization, apparently, that sometime in the last few weeks, hey, he is the backstop for someone's determination of life or death. I don't know. What was your reaction to this today? Because to me, that struck me as completely moronic.
Well, I think there's some situational ethics going on. I think the issues that he's concerned with regarding the death penalty are legitimate issues for discussion, but they're issues that the citizens discussed and the voters discussed in 2016 when they voted to keep the death penalty, and in 2012 when they voted to keep the death penalty. And it's not his place to completely invalidate laws that the voters enacted.
Now, this moratorium only lasts for when he is in office. If the next governor comes in, the death penalty can be reinstated. However, this does remove the state's lethal injection protocol. Can you explain how that sets us back even further if the next governor decides to reinstate this?
Well, according to Governor Newsom, what he said in his press conference this morning is that even as he spoke, the execution chamber was being dismantled. And I think they spent millions of dollars building that. So that would definitely slow down any future governor's decision that he wanted to proceed with executions, because he'd be starting from scratch again as far as constructing an execution chamber. That act also seems to violate the laws enacted by the voters by Proposition 66, because the voters said the Department of Corrections must always maintain the ability to execute these judgments.
So not only did he say this bridge is closed, he said, while I'm speaking to you, I am burning down the bridge. So
he's not just taking action that is going to be during his term. He is also hamstringing future governors.
How do you feel when you hear Gavin Newsom say something to the effect of this, which is what he said today, that he can't stand by and watch the execution of 737 Californians, which obviously would not be the case. We would not do that in 4 years. But anyway, he said that he could not stand by and watch and and sign off on 737 executions when he knows some of those people are innocent. How does that feel for you as a district attorney who has done death penalty cases and damn well knows that these people are guilty?
It's pure political hyperbole is what it is. If he thinks there are people on death row who are genuinely innocent, he can grant them reprieve. He can grant them commutation of sentence, and he can grant them a pardon. That is within his power if he believes they're innocent. My response would be, all right, then let's just execute the people who have confessed or admitted their guilt in these cases, because there's plenty of those too. And what I try to get people to remember is death verdicts aren't imposed by police, and they're not imposed by prosecutors, and they're not imposed by judges. Death verdicts are only imposed by citizens from our community who are serving as jurors and who sit for weeks and weeks to hear every single bit of evidence, not just that the prosecution wants to present, but that the defense wants to present about the defendant. If he has mental illness, if he had a bad childhood, if he stubbed his big toe and got angry, they can present anything they want to present, and the jurors listen to it. And they only decide after hearing all that evidence.
That is a great point. I don't think a lot of people even realize that. That's the way that we impose the death penalty in California.
Not to mention the number of inmates whose appeals have been exhausted.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about the guy who died in Corcoran last week or earlier this week was a guy who'd been on death row for 40 years.
And the guy, the guy that died a couple months ago, who was guilty of killing 25 people.
Yeah, he didn't get the death sentence because it didn't exist at the time.
It's just crazy. Michele, thank you. We appreciate your time once again.
My pleasure, as always.
You bet. Michele Hanisee there, again, Assistant DA and the President of the Association for District Attorneys, on this decision today by Governor Newsom, the announcement to stop the death penalty.